Welcome back to your daily QE news briefing. This is Daniel English. The ongoing conflict in Gaza has reached a critical juncture, prompting UN agency leaders to issue a plea for a humanitarian ceasefire. This call for a cessation of hostilities comes after nearly a month of intense fighting, during which Palestinian health authorities have reported a death toll from Israeli strikes exceeding 10,000. However, it's important to note that the accuracy of this figure is disputed, as it is reported by Hamas, a party with a vested interest in shaping the narrative of the conflict. Israel has resisted mounting international pressure for a ceasefire, maintaining that the release of hostages taken by Hamas militants during their incursion into southern Israel on October 7th must precede any such truce. In contrast, Hamas has made it clear that they will not release the hostages while Gaza remains under assault. On the ground, the situation is dire, with overwhelmed hospitals and critical shortages of essential supplies such as food and clean water, resulting in a growing humanitarian crisis. UN chiefs, including the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Volker Turk, World Health Organization head Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, and UN Aid Chief Martin Griffiths have emphasized the urgent need for a humanitarian ceasefire, highlighting that an entire population is besieged and under attack, deprived of access to the essentials for survival. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is actively engaged in regional diplomacy, working to mitigate the risks of further escalation, facilitate the delivery of essential aid to Gaza, and explore long-term solutions for both Israelis and Palestinians. The U.S. government's approach has been to support temporary pauses in the fighting to allow for the delivery of humanitarian aid, as they are concerned that a broader ceasefire might be exploited by Hamas militants. The Israeli military has intensified its operations on the ground, particularly in isolating areas in the northern Gaza Strip, where Hamas fighters are believed to be hiding in underground tunnels and bunkers. In response, Hamas claims to have inflicted significant losses on Israeli military vehicles and troops, underscoring the intensity and complexity of the conflict. The ongoing violence has resulted in heavy civilian casualties, with reports of Israeli airstrikes hitting hospitals and other critical civilian infrastructure. The International Committee of the Red Cross, ICRC, has been working to evacuate patients from Gaza for necessary medical treatment, reflecting the dire humanitarian situation. The situation in Gaza and the broader region remains highly complex and volatile, demanding ongoing international attention and concerted efforts to seek a lasting and peaceful resolution. The challenges and obstacles in reaching a resolution are evident, and a comprehensive approach involving multiple stakeholders is imperative to address this long-standing crisis.
In other news, Israeli Heritage Minister Amichai Eliyahu has been temporarily suspended from cabinet meetings after making a controversial remark suggesting the possibility of a nuclear strike on Gaza as an option in Israel's ongoing conflict with Hamas. The statement was made during an interview on Radio Kol Barama, as reported by the Times of Israel. When questioned about the use of a nuclear bomb on the Palestinian territory, Eliyahu reportedly replied, "This is one of the possibilities." The alarming comment has drawn swift condemnation, with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu suspending Eliyahu from cabinet meetings until further notice. In response to Eliyahu's statement, Prime Minister Netanyahu issued a statement saying, "Amichai Eliyahu's words are detached from reality." He emphasized that Israel and the Israel Defense Forces, IDF, are committed to acting in accordance with the highest standards of international law to prevent harm to uninvolved civilians throughout the conflict. Additionally, Netanyahu pointed out that Eliyahu is not a member of the emergency Israeli War Cabinet. Eliyahu is affiliated with Israel's far-right Otzma Yehudit party. Eliyahu's comments extended to his objection to providing humanitarian aid to Gaza, where he claimed, "There is no such thing as uninvolved civilians." He compared the situation to not providing humanitarian aid to Nazis, stating, "We wouldn't hand the Nazis humanitarian aid." On social media, Eliyahu later described the nuclear remark as metaphorical. He clarified, "It's clear to anyone who is sensible that the nuclear remark was metaphorical." However, he maintained his stance that a strong and disproportionate response to terrorism is definitely required. The incident has sparked controversy and raised concerns about the rhetoric surrounding the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, especially in the context of nuclear weapons. It remains to be seen how the situation will develop and what consequences Eliyahu's remarks may have on the political landscape in Israel.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has announced the postponement of elections, including the presidential vote scheduled for next spring, as the country grapples with the ongoing conflict with Russia. Zelensky's decision comes amidst a backdrop of martial law that has been in effect since the conflict began last year. We must decide that now is the time of defense, the time of battle, on which the fate of the state and people depends, President Zelensky stated in his daily address, adding, "I believe that now is not the right time for elections." His remarks underscore the need for unity in Ukraine as the nation faces a formidable adversary. The front line between Ukrainian and Russian forces has remained largely static for nearly a year, despite a Ukrainian counter-offensive. While officials from the United States and Europe have suggested negotiations to end the 20-month-old conflict, President Zelensky vehemently denied that Ukraine's counter-offensive has reached a stalemate and refuted claims that Western countries were pressuring Kyiv to engage in talks. The United States and other Western allies have publicly expressed their commitment to supporting Ukraine with military and financial aid until the conflict is resolved. Recent global attention has been drawn to the Middle East due to events like the October 7th Hamas attack on Israel, and Ukraine has come under increased pressure in this context. Overnight, Russian strikes in southern Ukraine, specifically in the region of Odessa, resulted in 8 people wounded and significant damage to a historic art museum. The museum, known as the Odessa Fine Arts Museum, saw its art pieces torn from the walls and windows blown out due to aerial bombardment. UNESCO condemned the attack, emphasizing the importance of protecting cultural sites. Ukraine is also concerned about Russia's intentions to target its energy infrastructure ahead of the winter season. President Zelensky highlighted the successful destruction of a major Russian ship in the Kerch shipyard in annexed Crimea. While President Zelensky had previously expressed his readiness to hold national elections next year, logistical challenges may arise due to a substantial number of Ukrainians abroad and soldiers fighting on the front lines. The political landscape in Ukraine remains divided, with former presidential aide Oleksiy Arestovich announcing his candidacy against Zelensky, citing concerns about the pace of the counter-offensive. In a tragic turn of events, a close advisor to the commander-in-chief of the Ukrainian army, General Valery Zaluzhny, was killed by an explosive concealed inside a birthday gift. Furthermore, Ukrainian prosecutors are investigating 2 senior defense officials as suspects in a large-scale fraud case related to the purchase of military uniforms. This incident reflects Ukraine's ongoing battle against systemic corruption, part of the reforms sought by Western nations as Ukraine seeks potential membership in institutions like the European Union. Thank you for your time. Enjoy the rest of your day.